Right now, you are carrying around the most advanced dopamine machine in human history, a pocket-sized portal that can instantly connect you to millions of players worldwide. We think we invented modern gaming culture, the obsession, the rage quitting, the competitive betting. But what if I told you that 5,000 years ago, humans weren't just playing games, they were gambling their lives, talking to dead ancestors, and predicting the literal end of the world through a handful of carved sheep knuckles? Today, if you lose a game of FIFA, you lose some rank points. In the year 700 AD, if you lost a game, the captain of your team might literally lose his head. Welcome to the dark, bizarre, and deeply mysterious world of ancient gaming. Now, before we look at the games that involved actual human sacrifice, we have to talk about a game so addictive it conquered the known world, completely vanished for 2 millennia, and was only brought back to life because of a diary hidden in an ancient Jewish fortress. This is the royal game of Ur. If you look at this board, it looks like a simple track game. You roll some dice, you move your pieces. Simple, right? Except for one thing. For thousands of years, people believed that this wasn't a game you played against a friend, you were playing against fate itself. Every square had a hidden meaning. Landing on a specific tile didn't just mean you got an extra turn, it meant you were going to find wealth, or meet a beautiful stranger, or die young. It was a simulation of the human soul. But here is a mystery that kept historians awake for centuries. By the time the Middle Ages rolled around, this game, played by kings, soldiers, and peasants across Egypt, Babylon, and India, completely disappeared. It was wiped from the face of the earth. Why? What made humanity collectively abandon its favorite game? Stick around, because the answer involves a 1,700-year-old Babylonian rulebook that a rogue archaeologist had to translate in the basement of the British Museum just to figure out how to play it. Let's start with the basics. Why did ancient humans play games in the first place? If you're a hunter-gatherer trying not to get eaten by a saber-toothed cat, why waste time moving pebbles across the dirt? Because human brains are hardwired for pattern recognition, and when life is chaotic, we want rules. Before we had plastics, we had astragali. That's a fancy scientific word for sheep knuckles. Astragali, sheep knuckles, is the talus bone in the hind leg of hoofed animals. Because it has 4 distinct sides, it became humanity's very first die. Ancient humans would gather around the campfire, roll these knuckles, and assign values to each side. But they didn't just play for fun, they played for divination. If you rolled 4 different sides at once, it was called the Venus roll. It meant the gods favored you. If you rolled a bad combination, it meant your upcoming harvest was doomed. Imagine playing a game of Monopoly where landing on Broadway meant you actually had to give up your real-world house to the tribal chief. That was ancient gaming. If Mesopotamia used games to predict the present, ancient Egypt used them to navigate the afterlife. Enter Senet. Senet is the oldest board game we have physical evidence of, dating back to 3100 BC. The board is a grid of 30 squares. Originally, it started as a harmless pastime for the elite, but over 1,000 years, it mutated into something deeply religious. The Egyptians believed that when you died, your soul, the Ba, had to journey through the underworld to reach the kingdom of Osiris. But the underworld was full of monsters, lakes of fire, and traps. So how did you practice for the ultimate journey of death? You played Senet. The final 5 squares of the board were decorated with religious symbols. Square 26 was the house of abundance, a safe zone. Square 27 was the house of water, a trap where your piece was drowned and sent all the way back to the start. Sound familiar? It's literally the ancient grandfather of chutes and ladders. By the time of the New Kingdom, Egyptians weren't just buried with their gold, they were buried with their Senet boards. They literally believed that to get into heaven, you had to play a match against the cloaked, invisible opponent, the forces of the netherworld. If you won the game on Earth, you'd win your immortality in death. But if you want to talk about true high stakes, we have to cross the Atlantic Ocean to ancient Mesoamerica. Meet Pits, the Mayan ball game. This wasn't a board game. This was a brutal athletic spectacle played in massive stone arenas. The rules were insane. Two teams had to keep a solid 9-pound rubber ball in the air without using their hands or feet. They could only use their hips, elbows, and knees. Think about that for a second. A 9-pound chunk of solid rubber hitting your ribs or hips at high speed. Players wore heavy leather padding, but internal bleeding and broken bones were just part of a standard Tuesday afternoon match. The goal was to get the ball through a tiny stone hoop mounted 10 to 20 feet up on the wall. But pits wasn't just a sport, it was a theatrical reenactment of the Mayan creation myth. The ball represented the sun moving across the sky. And here is where the history gets dark. For a long time, popular history claimed that the entire losing team was sacrificed. Modern archaeology tells us it was a bit more complicated. Sometimes the game was used as a substitute for war. Two rival cities would play a match instead of launching an army. The losing king or generals would then be executed. But some inscriptions suggest that in highly ceremonial matches, the winning captain was the one offered to the gods, because only the absolute best was worthy of the deities. Imagine winning the Super Bowl, lifting the trophy, and then immediately being escorted to an altar to have your heart cut out. Talk about a bittersweet victory. So let's solve that mystery we dropped at the beginning. Why did the royal game of Or disappear? For thousands of years, nobody knew how to play it. We found the boards in royal tombs, but no instructions. Then, in the 1980s, a brilliant curator named Irving Finkel was digging through the clay tablet archives of the British Museum. He found a tablet written in 177 BC by a Babylonian scribe named Iti-Marduk-Balatu. The tablet was a complete rulebook. It turned out the game hadn't died because people got bored of it. It died because it evolved. As the Roman Empire expanded, a new game called Ludus Duodecim Scriptorum became popular, which eventually turned into backgammon. The royal game of Or didn't vanish into thin air, it was simply optimized by history. Its DNA lives on every time you roll a pair of dice to move a plastic piece across a cardboard track. When we look back at these ancient games, it's easy to feel like these people were completely alien to us. We look at their sheep knuckle dice, their obsession with the afterlife, and their bloody sports, and we think, wow, humanity used to be crazy. But if you strip away the stone boards and the ritual sacrifice, the core impulse is exactly the same. Whether you're a Roman soldier carving a board on the steps of a forum because you're bored out of your mind, an Egyptian queen looking for a distraction from the stresses of ruling an empire, or you, right now, opening a gaming app to decompress after a terrible day at work, we play games for the exact same reason. We want to escape. We want to test our wits. We want to see if luck is on our side. Next time you lose a match online and feel like throwing your controller across the room, just take a deep breath and remind yourself at least nobody's trying to sacrifice you to the sun god. If you want to dive deeper into how these ancient rules were actually discovered, check out the official British Museum breakdown of the translation in the link below. Thanks for watching and see you next turn.